Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Santosh and welcome to the ophthalmic lecture series. So this is your next lecture. In this lecture, we will see the management of pediatric cataract or congenital cataract. So whenever you're going for the management of pediatric cataract, there are certain points you should remember. The first is pre-operative evaluation is very important in case of pediatric cataract surgery. So whenever you see the patient of pediatric cataract, you have to evaluate that. So what you are going to do in case of pre-operative evaluation? History, very important in case of pediatric patient. What you ask in history? Birth history, immunization history, and postnatal history is very important. Then of course ocular examination. In ocular examination, visual acuity, perception of light, projection of rays, light fixation, these are important in pediatric patient. Then detailed systemic examination, right, whether the child is having any systemic disorder. And the last one, in pre-operative evaluation, before operative, biometry for the IOL selection is must. Then after pre-operative evaluation, you will go certain lab investigation. Lab investigation as per the diseases, as per the pre-operative requirement, you can perform some blood investigation or some another lab investigation. The third point is very important in case of, especially in pediatric cataract surgery, that is parent counseling. So before going for the surgery, parent counseling is very must. So what for your counseling the parents? Most important, after operative, they need a regular visit for the follow-up. This is very important. Next thing, there will be frequent change in glasses. They should know that the glasses will frequently change as the age advance. After the operative surgeries, the length of the eyeball and refractive error changes. So frequent changes in glasses is very important. And then sometime multiple surgery might be required. So this is what the counseling part in case of the parent in pre-operative evaluation. Then the last part is the surgery. So whenever we are talking about the surgery, you should go for the indication. Indication in case of bilateral and unilateral. Bilateral, very simple. Visually significant cataract is the indication of the bilateral cataract surgery in case of congenital cataract. In unilateral or partial cataract, okay, why you perform the surgery? Yes, to prevent the amblyopia. Don't forget this word, unilateral amblyopia. Okay, so this is the second unilateral indication. Bilateral, visual significant cataract, but unilateral, if there is a cataract and if you not see also, but to prevent the amblyopia, you have to perform the surgery. Then another indication like cataract with the squint or nystagmus. Then if you perform the retinoscopy, if there is a poor retinoscopic reflex. Now what is the time of operative? Time of operative is also important. Unilateral cataract, you have to perform immediate surgery. You have to perform the immediate surgery. Bilateral, okay, so you can wait for like 6 to 8 weeks. And if you perform one eye, there should be a gap of 1 to 2 in between like two eyes. So that is about the bilateral cataract. Anesthesia, I will not go into detail of the anesthesia. General anesthesia, okay, all monitorings of the systems. Then what is the surgical step? That is also important. We will discuss the surgical step. Okay, sometime they need the secondary IOL implantation. What is the time of secondary IOL implantation? We will discuss that also. Then what is the post-operative management? Post-operative management of almost all cataract surgery is the same, but in pediatric cataract surgery, there are two things I want you to discuss. High doses of steroid. High doses of steroid. Just make a note with cycloplegic. So if you are giving high doses of steroid in post-operative management, IOP monitoring is must, and that is why parent counseling for frequent visit is very important, right? What should be the post-op complication? We are talking about the congenital cataract or pediatric cataract, and we should think about the complication also. So most common, there are so many complications, immediate, okay, or delay complication, but there is one complication I want you to focus, that is called glaucoma. Glaucoma is the most important complication of the pediatric cataract surgery. And then posterior capsular bag opacification, membrane formation, these are the another complications. So this is all about, in short, I will give you idea what we are going to discuss today. But the most important thing, before going this lecture, I go through some of the couple of paper of MS or DNB exam, previous paper, and I saw certain questions which is related to our today's topic. What are the questions? classification of congenital cataract and explain in brief, surgical management of congenital cataract, precaution during pediatric cataract surgery, biometry in pediatric cataract surgery, IOL in congenital cataract, adverse effect in surgical management of the congenital cataract, relationship between the glaucoma and management of the congenital cataract, secondary IOL implantation importance, and what are the steps in the congenital cataract. Okay, so follow-up of the congenital cataract patient, recent advance in the management of the congenital cataract. So these are so many questions, surgical steps in explain in detail in congenital cataract. So can you see there are like many of the questions they came on this particular topic, and that's why every alternative you can see something on this congenital cataract. So within a short brief period of time we will discuss almost all these questions in one lecture, right? So this is all about your question, and now we will start our main lecture, that is congenital cataract. So before going for the congenital cataract, classification of the congenital cataract is very important, right? So we will start our classification of congenital cataract or pediatric cataract on the basis of laterality and on the basis of location of the opacity. It's a unilateral cataract and bilateral cataract. Unilateral cataract, ocular abnormalities, trauma or idiopathic. Okay, ocular abnormalities like PHPV, okay, persistent hyperplastic primary vitreous caused disease retinoblastoma. Trauma, idiopathic. Bilateral cataract, okay, maternal infection, rubella, toxoplasmosis, hereditary, okay, metabolic disorder and idiopathic also. If you see here in retinoblastoma, 20 to 30% familial, 10 to 20% they are also familial RB, and 50 to 60% they are non-familial. I want you to remember this, 50 to 60% are non-familiar and they are unilateral. Only 20 to 30% they are familial and they are bilateral, okay. So non-familial, they are unilateral. So this is the classification which is already given in almost all the books. We will not go into detail. Then this pediatric or infantile, I use different word at so you don't have to confuse. This is the same thing. Infantile cataract on the basis of location of opacity, okay, anterior, posterior, central and diffuse. Anterior subcapsular, anterior, okay, pyramidal and anterior lenticonus. Posterior, anterior lenticonus, posterior lenticonus, posterior subcapsular. Here you can see anterior subcapsular. One most important thing which is oil droplet cataract. Oil droplet cataract in posterior, okay, on the basis of location. Central, lamellar, sutural and nuclear. Diffuse, cerulean and membranous cataract. So this is the kind of classification you have to see in case of the congenital cataract. So classification we take in short, we already take in short, but I want you to go through the books, okay. So on the basis of location of the opacity, it is very important, and sometimes they will ask about the unilateral and bilaterality in case of retinoblastoma as per the classification. So this part is over. Now we will see the next part. The most important is surgical technique for pediatric cataract surgery. Now we'll go for the surgical technique. So we already know which investigation we will do. We will not go in a detail. Surgical technique is very important. Whenever you go for the surgery in case of pediatric cataract surgery, the first is anterior chamber entry. Okay, so in anterior chamber entry, right, paracentesis incision is created in clear cornea, 30 degree. Okay, so I will just, this is a paracentesis incision, 30 degree on either side of main incision. This is the main incision. Okay, so AC entry paracentesis incision is created in the clear cornea, 30 degree on either side of the main incision. Okay, then at this you have to perform the small tunnel of the paracentesis. It's approximately like 0.9 to 1.2 millimeters. So this is the tunnel. Okay, so dimension is 0.9 to 1.2 millimeter, and this allow for what this two paracentesis for insertion of IA cannula and the vitrectomy probe. So this is all about your paracentesis. Now what about the main incision? It is like 2.6 to 3 millimeter, okay, wide. Okay, it's a limbal valvular incision. It's a limbal valvular, it's like a wall mechanism incision. It's a limbal valvular incision. Okay, so whenever it's like a wall, you need the internal entry flap. Okay, so it is like with 1 to 1.5 internal incision. Okay, so external, so I just make it like this, external 2.6 to 3 millimeter, and when you enter inside, it is like with 1 to 1.5 millimeter internal entry is preferred. Why? Because the sclera in young child is elastic. It is elastic, and it encourages to use of smallest. We need to use smallest possible incision. Okay, so if it is more, then there may be chances of iris prolapse. Okay, so there might be a chances of iris prolapse. So it is better to have the smallest incision. Now the second is anterior capsulotomy. Anterior capsulotomy, okay, you can perform the manual CCC, okay, made by using cystitome, or you can use forceps, or with the combination of both. So forceps is necessary. Why forceps is necessary? Okay, for control of the elastic capsule. The elasticity of the capsule in pediatric or in case of the infant, okay, it's more elastic. Okay, so in children, you have to use the several repeated grasp. It is not like a one grasp. You have to grasp the capsule and then rotate it. Again, you have to grasp the capsule and then rotate it. So several grasping is very, very important at the, and where is the grasping? You already know, leading edge of the tear. Okay, grasp should be at the, whenever you perform the CCC, the grasp should be at the leading edge of the tear of that particular capsule. This capsulorhexis should be kept small. It should be very small, like 4.5 to 5 millimeter. Okay, it should be 4.5 to 5 millimeter. Okay, that's we already know because of the elasticity. So lean capsule can create the capsular. It might be because of the more elasticity, it will be bigger after that. It will be longer than expected or desired. So this is about the capsulorhexis. So anterior capsulorhexis. So two paracentesis incision, one for IA, another for vitrectomy. This is the main incision. Okay, so whenever we are talking about the capsulorhexis, there are certain recent advanced technique. Okay, first there is a vitreorhexis. It is called vitreorhexis. So vitreorhexis in less than 2-year age, when capsule is very, very elastic, at that time we can use the vitreorhexis. Okay, but there are disadvantages. It is very difficult to control vitreorhexis. With the help of this vitreoprobe, you can perform the vitreorhexis in less than 2 years because elasticity is more. Second type of recent advanced capsulorhexis is radiofrequency dithermy. Radiofrequency dithermy type of capsulorhexis. But there is also a disadvantages, that is the coagulated capsular age. There is a coagulated capsular age. And third is using phugoplasma blade. By using phugoplasma blade, you can perform the anterior capsulotomy. Then after capsulotomy, next is hydrodissection. The hydrodissection should be thorough and cortical matter. Okay, separation should be done. This is the third one. After that, irrigation and aspiration. After that, irrigation and aspiration. Irrigation and aspiration. Okay, minimum. Why? This is very important or crucial step. Okay, this irrigation and aspiration minimize the AC fluctuation whenever you are going to remove the cortex. So this is very important or crucial step. Along with the IA, you have to remove this hard nucleus. You have to remove the hard nucleus. So how will you remove the hard nucleus? By giving the short burst of the phaco, and this is we already know. We don't go in a detail of the cataract how to perform in case of the irrigation and that is aspiration, and how to phaco the lenses. Now after doing irrigation and aspiration and the phaco of the hard nucleus, now the next step is posterior capsulotomy. Posterior capsulotomy plus the most important is anterior vitrectomy. Anterior vitrectomy. So posterior capsulotomy and anterior vitrectomy. So primary posterior capsulotomy, this is called primary posterior capsulotomy, is preferred. It is very important. In age group is varied in 6 to 8 year of age. And how will you perform? With the help of like 26 gauge needle, with the help of 26 gauge needle, which is called cystitome, use. Okay, so to make this posterior capsulotomy, and the initial cut you already know, that is on PC. So first you have to give the cut with the help of 26 number needle cystitome, and after that you don't have to use this 26 gauge needle. You have to give only cut and then use the forceps. Then use the forceps. The flap is lifted with the help of capsular axis forceps. So it is only for cut and then capsular axis forceps, and then perform the posterior capsulotomy. And it is like 3.5 to 4 millimeter, little bit smaller than anterior capsulotomy. Now here the most important is, you can see inflammatory response in young children. In young children, the inflammatory response is very severe, and there might be a chances of fibrous membrane formation. Okay, if you, this is a capsule, anterior capsulotomy, posterior capsulotomy. If vitreous is here, there is a chances of formation of inflammatory membrane. Okay, and it is more important, right? So this anterior face of the vitreous you have to clear to minimize the chances of the formation of the membrane. Okay, they may form on the anterior face of the uterus, they may form the membrane. Okay, so they act as a scaffold for the lens epithelial cell migration and proliferation. So this anterior vitrectomy, you have to remove this anterior face of the vitreous by performing anterior vitrectomy with posterior capsulotomy. Okay, so it is very important, advocated in case of the infant and young child up to the age of 2 years of the age. Now this central anterior vitrectomy, it should be like how much it perform. The depth is 2 millimeter. So 2 millimeter depth of the anterior vitreous face should be removed. Okay, so this is one. And then after that, PCIOL is placed in the bag. PCIOL is placed in the bag, or it depends. It also placed in the sulcus. Okay. Now, which IOL? There are two IOL. One is called hydrophobic. Okay, acrylic and hydrophobic acrylic, and then Pymma lenses. Okay. So preferred is hydrophobic acrylic. Then after implantation of the lenses, we have to remove the visco. Okay, visco will be removed from the AC, and the main incision is closed with the suture. This is very main incision should be closed with the suture. Now this is all about your surgical technique. Now there are certain new approach. If there is a formation of PCO in children, main incision will be closed with the suture. If there is a chances of formation of PCO in children, you can, if there is a PCO, you can use the NDA capsulotomy, secondary surgical membranectomy, or along with the vitrectomy. But what is the new approach which minimize the chances of formation of the membrane or PCO? There are three. These are the recent advances. First is new approach, sealed capsular irrigation. Sealed capsular irrigation technique. In sealed capsular irrigation technique, okay, this device is used to irrigate the capsular bag and eliminate whatever the visual axis, whatever the come in the visual axis opacification. This is called sealed capsular irrigation technique. Recent advance. Second is heparin in irrigation solution. We can use the heparin in irrigating solution. Heparin you can use in the irrigating solution, so which reduce the inflammation in case of pediatric cataract surgery. Okay, and third is in the bag lens implantation. Third is in bag, or it is called bag in lens implantation. Not in bag, bag in lens implantation technique. In this method, this is quite a different method. In this method, anterior and posterior capsulotomy is almost same. Okay, anterior and posterior capsule are placed, and here it is the lens with the groove. This is the groove of lens. So capsule is placed here in the groove of lens. Okay, and then there is a minimal chances of the formation of the PCO. So this is called bag in lens implantation, and there are different design IOL for this particular bag in lens implantation, and that prevent the migration of the lens epithelial cell and which prevent the formation of PCO. So this is all about your which one, what type of lenses and what are the prevention you can take in for the avoidance of posterior capsular opacification. Now, what are the precaution you can take during the pediatric cataract surgery? Now, next we will see this is all about the surgical step, biometry. Biometry is also important in case of the pediatric cataract or infantile cataract surgery. We already discussed in case of the question biometry. So, in biometry, if you see the principle, the parallel sound beam emitted from that particular probe, the probe which is used for the scan, the parallel sound beam that will be emitted from the probe and from the tip, and it is like 10 microhertz, and then it will echo back, and then it forms the strike, it forms the waves. So there are like, this is the principle you can read from the book. Okay, now there are two type of E-scan biometry. Okay, there are two type. One is called contact applanation biometry. The first is contact applanation biometry. Okay, the first is contact applanation biometry. Okay, here you have to place the probe in contact with the cornea, and where exactly? Central cornea. But there is a disadvantages of this biometry. Okay, in case of contact applanation biometry, you have to place the probe at the center of the cornea. And what is the disadvantages? This probe indent the cornea, and there is a shallowing of anterior chamber. So overestimation of the IOL power. Overestimation of IOL power. Contact applanation biometry. Second type is immersion applanation biometry. Second is immersion E-scan, contact E-scan, not applanation biometry. So in immersion E-scan biometry, you have to place, not the probe, saline filled scleral shell. Okay, so it is like saline filled scleral shell, and inside that there is the probe. So saline filled scleral shell between the probe and here it is the eye. Okay, so indentation is avoided. Okay, so here the indentation is, there is no indentation you can see in case of immersion sac biometry. But here there are certain, there is one single disadvantages in case of immersion E-scan biometry, that is poor image resolution due to the relative long wavelength. That is poor immersion, okay, or image. Because of this immersion, there is a poor image resolution. The poor image resolution because of the relatively long wavelength, like 10 million that hertz to measure in short distance, relatively in the short distance. So it is the a little bit disadvantages in case of immersion E-scan biometry. Now the next is most important, IOL power calculation. The next is what? IOL power calculation. So in case of the pediatric, IOL power calculation is also important one. So there are so many formula, that is Hopper Q formula. Okay, then Holliday 2, and the third one is SRK2. So these are the usual three formulas. This Hopper Q formula, they overestimate the IOL power. Holliday 2, no, increase accuracy. It is increase accuracy. And SRK2 is the best method. Out of these three, it is the little bit increase accuracy. The best one is SRK2 in case of the IOL power calculation. What are the disadvantages in biometry measurement in pediatric patient? So if you want to perform the biometry for IOL, there are certain disadvantages also in case of biometry performation in pediatric patient we are talking about. So to perform the biometry, we need the general anesthesia. That is the most important thing. Then fixation, there is no fixation. Not really disadvantage. These are the difficulty we have to face in biometry in the pediatric patient. We need a GA. There is a no fixation. Okay, difficulty in measuring the that is called the reading because of the poor fixation. Okay, and this is all about the biometry disadvantages or complications. So this is all about your which one? Disadvantages in biometry measurement in case of the pediatric patient. So we need a GA, and most important, lack of fixation. Now, under correction is one important thing in case of IOL selection. So under correction, as per the age and percentage of under correction, there is a chart, percentage of under correction, how much you should under correct, right? So it is like 0 to 3 month patient, or 3 to 6 months, 6 to 12 months, then 1 to 2 year, 1 to 2 year, 2 to 4 year, then 4 to 6 year, 4 to 6 year, and more than 6 year, or just slowly you have to increase. So how much percent you have to under correct, right? So it is like, if it is like 0 to 3 months, it is like 35%, then 30%, then 25%, 20%, okay, then 15%, then so you have to slowly reduce it down up to the 4 to 6 year of age. So as at 5% here. So these are the under correction. So more than 8, you don't have to under correct. Okay, so it's emmetropic. You don't have to under correct. Here up to more than 6, you have to under correct. So what are the factor which affect the IOL calculation in the children? The most important is the age is the factor. Age is the factor. Then axial length, keratometry. Most important, what are the factors? They also ask the factors affecting the IOL calculation in case of pediatric patients. So the first most important, we already saw the age. Age is one of the most important factor. Then axial length and K value. These are the most important factor. Myopic shift. Myopic shift is one of the most important factor. Amblyopia. Okay. Nutrition or genetics. Amblyopia. So these are the factors which affect the IOL calculation. And there is one more that is called depth perception or stereopsis. So these are the factors which affect the IOL calculation in case of pediatric patient. Ideal IOL power should be what? Okay. So what should be the ideal IOL power should given? Yes. For that, decreased chance of development of amblyopia. If you talk about the ideal IOL power, which IOL you can give? Decreased chances of development of amblyopia. That is the ideal IOL power. And then inducing least refractive error in case of the adulthood. So after this ideal IOL, there is a least refractive error when that child become adult. Okay. Now there is one more thing in case of this pediatric cataract surgery in IOL, that is called refractive error correction. That is called the target post-op refraction. What should be the target post-operative refraction? So there is already a cataract. Okay. So if there are two possibilities, one is older children and second is infant. Second is infant. In case of older children, if it is like 2 to 4 years, in older children, IOL power is equal to the spherical equivalent of fellow eye. Okay, so IOL power in 2 to 4 year, IOL power is equal to spherical equivalent of the fellow eye minus 1.25 diopter. That is the for the old children. If it is more than 4 year, if it is more than 4 year in case of older children, IOL power is equal to the spherical equivalent, okay, of fellow eye, and you don't have to decrease this 1.2 diopter. Okay, so this is all about the older children. In case of infant, less than 6 months. If it is less than 6 months, okay, moderate or mild hyperopia, usually they are hyperopic, in case moderate hypopia or mild hyperopia. So it is more than or equal to 3 diopter to 7 diopter. If it is mild, it is 0 to 3 diopter. So in case of mild and in case of moderate hyperopia. So it is up to 6 to 12 months. So this is all about your target post-op refraction. Now next we will see what are the types of IOL in children. What are the types of IOL for children? Types of IOL for children. So sulcus fixation produces a relative myopic shift. If it is the sulcus fixated IOL, then it produces myopic shift. I want you to remember this one. Okay. So estimated refraction. So IOL power should undercorrect. IOL power should be undercorrect. How much? 0.75 diopter. How much? 0.75 diopter to 1 diopter. Okay, sulcus fixation. Okay. Now this polymethyl methacrylate IOL, okay, they causes usually the more inflammation and PCO. We already see this. Okay. Now this is one. This is the rule I want you to remember. So first IOL, PMA, inflammation and PCO. Second is hydrophobic acrylic single piece IOL is the best one. Single piece IOL is the best choice. So it is the best choice. So PMMA, they causes inflammation as PCO. Hydrophobic acrylic, okay, single piece IOL is the best. Okay, and it should be placed in bag. And third is hydrophobic acrylic 3-piece IOL. It is like hydrophobic acrylic 3-piece IOL. It can place in the sulcus also. So better than this if sulcus, then hydrophobic acrylic 3-piece IOL. And if it is a single piece, then it should be in the back. So these are the choices of IOL. So this is all about what are the which type of IOL, and we already said it's undercorrect. If it is in the sulcus fixation, okay, in the back you don't have to go for this under correction. Now the last and most important point I have to discuss here, that is secondary IOL implantation. We already talked about the secondary IOL implantation. In secondary IOL implantation, what are the indication? What are the indication of secondary IOL implantation? Okay, if there is a PCR during the surgery, and it should be extensive posterior capsular during the surgery. This is the first indication for secondary IOL implantation. Okay, so extensive PCR during the first surgery or primary surgery is the indication of secondary IOL implantation. Second, if it is a complicated cataract, then after the first surgery, if it is a complicated cataract, then you can put the secondary IOL implantation. Or if it is the cataract also complication, what are the complication? Rheumatoid arthritis or uveitis, or if it is associated with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. So these are the complication. Or if it is a traumatic cataract, then in this condition you can go for the secondary IOL implantation. Okay, so this is all about your which one? Indication of. Now before surgery, most important is ophthalmological workout, including detailed retinal examination, is very important at the time of secondary IOL implantation. So comprehensive ophthalmological workout, okay, including the detailed retinal function, that is called examination, is very important. It is before surgery. Examination. And now second is during surgery. What do you have to do? During surgery, care is taken to avoid the exact, we already know that 30 degree, 90 degree. So you have to take the care, like the position of that previous incision, like 30° and 90°, or you can say 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock position. Okay, to avoid the exact position, that is 3 and 9 o'clock of this paracentesis position for previous sclerostomy we already performed. So we have to avoid this 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock site. So, and the second is preferred partial thickness scleral flap. Second is partial thickness scleral flap. And then at the time of vitrectomy, you have to perform the vitrectomy very meticulously at the base of vitreous. Okay, so to eliminate the vitreous fractional band, or it might causes the cystoid macular edema. And then you have to perform the last one, that is called IOL placement. That is a secondary IOL implantation. Okay, so if there is IOL placement, again there are two conditions. Okay, if there is an adequate posterior capsular support or inadequate posterior capsular support. If it is an adequate posterior capsular support, PCIOL is good. We already know single piece PCIOL. Okay, but where if the adequate posterior capsular support is there, you have to perform the posterior chamber intraocular lens implantation in sulcus. It's a secondary IOL implantation. It should be in the sulcus. If it is inadequate posterior capsular support, then you have to use the angle supported. Angle supported. You already know ACIOL. Okay, if it is inadequate, then ACIOL. Or you can use iris fixated IOL. Okay, iris fixated ACIOL or sutured iris IOL or sutured iris IOL. Okay, scleral fixated, that is called PCIOL. Scleral fixated PCIOL. Okay, these are the when there is an inadequate. Okay, now if it is an angle supported ACIOL, there are certain disadvantages here. They causes angle recession. Okay, that is iridodialysis or inadequate. If there is an inadequate iris support, then it will be not possible, and this we might cause the most important corneal decompensation. They can also cause corneal decompensation. So this is all about the which type of IOL is selected. Then in case of IOL fixation, that is intrascleral fixation of haptic, where intrascleral fixation of haptic, you already know, where in sclera you have to fix the haptic with the help of fibrin glue. With the help of fibrin glue, this is the best method. Intrascleral fixation of haptic of this IOL with the help of fibrin glue is the best one. Now the best is intrascleral fixation of haptic with the help of fibrin glue is the best one. And what is the post-operative care treatment for same? And then we have to one more important thing you have to remember, you have to treat the amblyopia, and regular monitoring is the very important aspect in case of secondary IOL implantation. Now the last point is, there is one thing I forgot to discuss here. What is the relationship between pediatric cataract surgery and the glaucoma? Okay, I said the glaucoma is the most important. There are so many complications of the cataract surgery, but the most important is the glaucoma. So what is the relation? Glaucoma is one of the most important complications. What is the main cause? Main cause is aphakia. Main cause is aphakia. And common type, which type of glaucoma? Open angle glaucoma. Which one is open angle glaucoma? Risk factors. Okay, age at the time of surgery, most important risk factor. Okay, if there is a pre-existing ocular, that is abnormality, or what are the types of congenital cataract, or there might be the effect of lens particle or proliferation, or that is called inflammation. So secondary surgery, chronic post-operative inflammation, these are the more chances in case of the pediatric cataract. Or which type of lensectomy procedure we have to perform, instrumentation done, they can cause the glaucoma. They can cause the glaucoma, the pupillary glaucoma. Okay, and duration of the post-op follow-up period. During that period, you have to see. So this is all about your which one, the most important complication in case of the glaucoma. That is called the secondary glaucoma. Okay, in case of the pediatric cataract surgery. So if you see this lecture, we cover almost all the part. We cover almost all the part of all this question which will we previously mentioned here, like 9 to 10 or 11 question. So in this one lecture of 30 to 35 minutes, you can write almost anything. Before writing the answer of any question, you have to think about how many marks or weightage of that question is there. In some exam it is like 25 marks, in some state like in MS it is 25 marks, in DNB it is not like more than 10 marks. So look for the marking and then answer the question, because there is a time restriction. So I know everybody have all knowledge about almost all the things, but you don't have to write everything. Listen carefully, read carefully what they are asking. As per the mark, you have to divide. Whenever you read the question, the first thing come in your mind should be what, how we will divide, what you are going to write. You know everything, but what they ask is very, very important. So thank you very much for listening this lecture. I compile almost all the topic from here and there in one lecture. So hope you will understand this. We will see in the next lecture. Thank you.